The twins arrived at the dojo early, just as the sun was beginning to peek through the trees. Their bags were light, carrying only water bottles, towels, and the sense of determination that had always been a part of them. The twins had always loved martial arts. From the time they were small, their parents had encouraged them to find strength and discipline through it. But it wasn't just about fighting. It was about focus, patience, and respect. Every kick, punch, and block was a step toward becoming better versions of themselves. The dojo was calm in the morning. The wooden floors reflected the soft light, and the smell of polished wood mixed with the faint scent of sweat. A few students were already stretching quietly, preparing for the day's practice. The twins walked in silently, bowing to the sensei with the same respect they had shown for years. They changed into their gi, tying the belts carefully, each knot precise and neat. Today felt different. There was a quiet tension in the air, though the twins could not yet put a finger on it. As they moved to warm up, stretching their muscles, they noticed a group of older students watching them from across the room. These were black belt students, known for their skill, but also for their arrogance. They whispered to each other, smirking and occasionally glancing in the twins' direction. The twins exchanged a subtle glance, a silent understanding passing between them. They were not the type to back down from a challenge, but they also knew when to remain calm. Today, they would focus on their own training and not let anyone's attitude disturb their concentration. Practice began with simple drills, punches and blocks repeated over and over. The twins moved in sync, almost like they could read each other's minds. Their movements were fluid and precise, the result of years of shared training. The black belts began to murmur, their whispers growing louder. Some of them made small, sarcastic comments about the twins' techniques. Underestimating them because of their age and quiet demeanor, one of the older students stepped forward, smirk playing on his lips. He circled the twins, testing the waters. "You to think you're good, huh?" he said, his voice dripping with mockery. The twins remained silent, continuing their drills, their eyes steady and unflinching. The sensei noticed the tension and gave a small, quiet signal, urging everyone to focus on their own practice. But the older students weren't ready to let it go. They began to demonstrate techniques, moving closer to the twins, testing their reactions. It was subtle at first, a push here, a feint there, but it was meant to provoke. The twins absorbed every move, their bodies responding with control and precision. They did not retaliate, not yet, but their movements were careful. After the morning warm-up, the class moved on to sparring practice. Students paired off, testing their skills against one another. The twins were paired with each other first, moving as a team, anticipating each other's movements. Their coordination was nearly perfect. When the older students saw this, their smirks faded slightly, replaced by curiosity and unease. They began to whisper among themselves. Realizing that these quiet newcomers were not ordinary, one of the black belts, growing impatient, finally approached. "You think you can keep up with us?" he asked, a challenge clear in his tone. The twins paused, their breathing steady. They had faced challenges before, but this was different. This wasn't just a test of skill. It was a test of patience, control, and understanding. They nodded slightly, signaling that they were ready, but on their own terms. Sparring began. The twins moved with grace, blocking and countering with skill that surprised even the instructors. Their movements were not about force, but about precision and timing. The older students tried to intimidate them with aggressive attacks, but the twins absorbed everything, redirecting energy and maintaining balance. Each strike was met with calm, each feint countered with awareness. The room was silent for a moment, everyone watching, realizing that these twins were not what they seemed. As the class progressed, the older students tried harder to provoke them, using every trick they knew. But the twins remained focused. They moved as one, covering each other's weaknesses, exploiting openings only when necessary. Their eyes reflected determination and intelligence. They did not show anger or frustration, only clarity and control. During a brief water break, one of the black belts muttered to his friends, clearly irritated. "They're too calm. It's like they don't even care," the twins overheard, but they only smiled faintly. They had learned long ago that patience and discipline often won more battles than anger. In strength, the sensei gathered everyone for the final part of practice. Today's lesson was about respect, balance, and understanding one's own abilities. The twins listened carefully, absorbing every word, every demonstration. They were not just training to fight. They were training to master themselves. As the class ended, the older students lingered, some curious, some frustrated. They had underestimated the twins and now realized that these young fighters were disciplined, skilled, and tireless. The twins bowed respectfully, collecting their things and leaving the dojo with the same quiet determination they had arrived with. Outside, the sun was higher, casting long shadows across the ground. Walking home, the twins reflected on the morning's events. They knew this was only the beginning. Challenges would come, and not everyone would respect their abilities or discipline. But they were ready. Together, they had trained, grown, and understood that their strength came not just from physical ability, but from patience, intelligence, and unity. They did not boast or show off. They simply continued on their path, step by step, always improving, always ready. The day had tested them, but it had also reminded them of why they trained, why they pushed themselves, and why they never gave up. They were twins, they were fighters, and most importantly, they were tireless in their pursuit of excellence. The day of confrontation had arrived. The twins walked into the dojo with the same calm determination that had always guided them. There was a quiet tension in the air. Everyone could feel it. The older black belts were restless, smirking but with a hint of uncertainty. They had underestimated the twins before, but today, they wanted to assert their dominance once and for all. The twins started their warm-ups quietly, stretching and moving with precision. Their breathing was steady, their movements controlled. They exchanged small, subtle glances, a silent communication that showed they were ready for whatever came next. The black belts watched closely, their arrogance mingling with unease. The sensei entered, giving the usual nod to begin practice. Today's session was sparring. The twins were paired off with the older students, and the energy in the room shifted immediately. The older students were aggressive from the start, using all their experience to intimidate. Their movements were fast and forceful, meant to overwhelm the twins. The twins reacted with grace. They moved as a unit, blocking and countering without showing fear or frustration. Every strike they faced was met with precision. They absorbed the energy of the attacks, redirecting it with skill. Their calmness was disarming, making the aggressors uneasy. The room grew quiet as everyone watched the unfolding match. One of the older students lunged forward, aiming to push the twins out of balance. One twin sidestepped effortlessly, while the other shifted position to cover, creating a perfect defense. The strike missed and the aggressor stumbled slightly. Whispers rippled through the class. No one had expected this level of control and precision. The twins didn't retaliate aggressively. Instead, they moved strategically, always staying one step ahead. They blocked, redirected, and countered with skill that was almost effortless to watch. Each movement was measured, showing both strength and intelligence. Their opponents tried harder, growing frustrated. Their attacks became sloppy, and the twins took advantage, using minimal effort to maintain control. During a brief pause, one of the black belts tried to intimidate them verbally. "You think you're special?" he sneered. The twins simply nodded politely, giving no sign of anger. Their calmness was like a shield, unbreakable and unshakable. The older students' words lost their power in the face of such composure. Sparring continued, and it became clear that the twins were not just skilled fighters, they were strategists. They anticipated moves before they happened, reading their opponent's intentions with uncanny accuracy. They moved like water, flowing around obstacles and striking only when necessary. The black belts were stunned, realizing that their earlier arrogance had blinded them to the twins' true abilities. A more aggressive black belt tried to corner the twins. Using a series of fast strikes and kicks, the twins reacted in perfect unison, each covering the other's blind spots. They redirected the force of the attacks, maintaining balance and composure. The aggressor faltered, confused, and frustrated. The twins' movements were precise, efficient, and tireless. It was not brute force, that one, but intelligence, skill, and coordination. Other students watched in awe. They had seen the twins train, but seeing them in a real confrontation revealed their true capabilities. It was a lesson in discipline, patience, and the quiet power of practice. The black belts were learning a hard lesson. They had underestimated the twins, and now the price was evident. The sensei observed quietly, allowing the twins to demonstrate their mastery. The twins did not seek humiliation or victory for pride. Every move was calculated, showing restraint and control. They understood that true strength was not about dominating others, but about maintaining balance and integrity. The final moments of the sparring session were tense. The twins were surrounded, but they remained calm. They moved with coordination and clarity, neutralizing threats efficiently. Each strike was met with precise counters. Each attempt to overpower them was redirected gracefully. The older students were left scrambling, frustrated, and exhausted. It was clear who had the upper hand, yet the twins showed no malice, only control. After the sparring ended, the twins bowed respectfully to the sensei and their opponents. The dojo was silent, the black belts still trying to process what had happened. Their arrogance had been challenged, their assumptions shattered. The twins had proven that strength was not measured by aggression or noise, but by discipline, focus, and tireless practice. Outside the dojo, the twins walked together, reflecting on the day. They knew this was only the beginning of their journey. Challenges would continue to come, and not everyone would respect their abilities or patience. But they were ready. Together, they had proven that true strength came from unity, discipline, and inner calm. They were not just fighters. They were tireless, thoughtful, and skilled beyond what others expected. They didn't boast or celebrate loudly. Their victory was quiet, internal, and personal. Each step they took reinforced their bond, their dedication, and their understanding of what it meant to be true martial artists. The black belts had learned a lesson. But the twins knew that the real reward was the growth they achieved within themselves. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the streets, the twins continued their walk home. Their minds were focused, already planning the next stage of their training. They had faced challenges, confronted arrogance, and shown that determination and skill could overcome intimidation. The day had tested them, but it had also strengthened their confidence, their unity, and their tireless spirit. They were ready for whatever came next, knowing that every challenge was an opportunity to grow and refine themselves. The days following the confrontation were calm but filled with quiet reflection. The twins continued attending the dojo, but now there was a noticeable change in the atmosphere. Other students looked at them with new respect, while the older black belts no longer smirked or whispered behind their backs. The twins had earned recognition not through boasting or anger, but through skill, discipline, composure. The twins moved through their practice with the same dedication as always. Every punch, every kick, and every block was executed with focus. Yet now, there was a subtle awareness in the dojo. Students watched more attentively, trying to understand the method behind the twins' calm and precise movements. Some came to them, seeking advice, quietly asking questions about their techniques. The twins answered patiently, sharing tips without ever showing superiority. The black belts, though still hesitant, began to adjust their behavior. They had learned not to underestimate anyone, but pride made it difficult for them to fully accept the lesson. Still, there were small changes. They nodded in acknowledgement when the twins performed difficult moves flawlessly. They avoided unnecessary provocation, and slowly, respect began to replace arrogance. Outside of class, the twins continued their routine. They trained at home, in parks, and in quiet spaces where they could focus. They were tireless, never letting distractions break their rhythm. Each day they pushed themselves a little further, honing their abilities not for recognition, but for self-mastery. Their bond grew stronger with every shared practice, every conversation about strategy and control. They understood each other perfectly, anticipating movements and decisions almost instinctively. The sensei noticed their growth, began giving them more advanced techniques. Trusting them with demonstrations in front of the class, the twins approached these opportunities with humility. They were aware that being skilled brought attention, but they never let it affect their character. They showed respect, not just to the sensei, but to everyone around them, demonstrating that mastery was as much about attitude as ability. One day, a new student joined the dojo. Nervous and unsure, the student struggled to perform basic movements. The twins noticed and offered encouragement. They demonstrated techniques slowly, explaining each step and patiently helping the student improve. Their actions drew admiration from everyone, including the black belts who had once tried to intimidate them. It became clear that the twins were not only tireless fighters, but also generous teachers. Willing to lift others rather than keep them down, the dojo began to feel different. The tension and hostility that had existed before slowly faded. Other students began to approach their training with renewed focus, inspired by the twins' discipline and dedication. The twins' presence reminded everyone that strength was not measured by aggression or loudness, but by control, patience, and understanding. Despite their rising reputation, the twins remained grounded. They did not seek glory or recognition. They continued their practice quietly, valuing personal growth and mutual support above all. They understood that real strength came from within, not from the acknowledgement of others. This attitude became a silent lesson to everyone in the dojo. Occasionally, the older black belts would attempt minor tests or challenges, perhaps to gauge if the twins had changed or become overconfident. Each time, the twins met the challenges calmly and efficiently. They responded with precision, never overreacting or seeking revenge. Their actions demonstrated that mastery was about balance and not showing off. Over time, these small encounters turned into moments of mutual understanding. The black belts learned humility, and the twins reinforced the importance of discipline. The twins also began to notice the effects of their behavior outside the dojo. Younger students who had once been timid or shy now approached them with confidence. The twins' example showed that perseverance and patience could overcome fear and intimidation. Even the teachers outside the dojo began to recognize the twins' tireless spirit and the calm authority in their presence. As weeks passed, the twins reflected on their journey. They remembered the early days when they had been underestimated, the moments of tension with the black belts, and the quiet victories that had not been noticed by anyone. Each experience had shaped them, strengthening not only their bodies, but their minds and spirits. They understood that true growth was gradual, achieved through consistent effort, and guided by discipline. One evening, as the dojo emptied, the twins stayed behind to practice a few advanced techniques. They moved through the sequences with precision, adjusting their balance, timing, and coordination. It was not about showing anyone else what they could do. It was about refining themselves, pushing the limits of their abilities, and supporting each other as partners and teammates. The sensei watched silently from a distance. Proud of the calm confidence and tireless dedication the twins displayed, the twins' journey continued quietly, without drama or conflict, but with clear progress. The older black belts, once threatening and arrogant, began to approach them with genuine respect. They no longer tried to intimidate, but instead observed and occasionally sought advice. The twins had transformed the environment, not by force, but by example. They showed that tireless effort, humility, and control could inspire change in others. Outside the dojo, life continued with its usual challenges. School, friends, and family demanded attention, but the twins balanced everything carefully. They never let outside pressures disrupt their discipline or focus. Each day was an opportunity to grow, to refine skills, and to practice patience and understanding. Their journey was not about winning over others, but mastering themselves and remaining tireless in their pursuit of excellence. Through it all, their bond remained unbreakable. They shared victories, frustrations, and small insights, always supporting each other. They had proven that together they could face any challenge, overcome intimidation, and remain steadfast in the face of arrogance. Their tireless spirit became the core of their identity, quietly influencing those around them. As they left the dojo one evening, the twins walked side by side, reflecting on their progress. They had grown in skill, confidence, and understanding. They had turned challenges into lessons and intimidation into motivation. They knew the journey was far from over, but they were ready. Together, they had faced obstacles, transformed their environment, and demonstrated that true strength lay not just in physical ability, but in tireless effort, discipline, and a calm, unshakable heart. The twins entered the dojo with a calm confidence that had grown over time. The journey they had undertaken, full of challenges, learning, and self-discovery, had prepared them for this moment. They were no longer just students learning techniques. They had become examples of tireless effort, discipline, and humility. The dojo felt different now. Where once there had been tension and doubt, there was now quiet respect and attentiveness. Everyone seemed aware of the presence of the twins. But there was no arrogance in the attention they received, only acknowledgement of their dedication. Today's practice was a special session, focusing on advanced techniques and coordination. The sensei gathered the students and explained the goals of the day. The twins listened carefully, absorbing every word. They understood that growth was continuous and mastery was never complete. They moved to their practice area, stretching and preparing themselves mentally as well as physically. Their movements were precise and controlled, reflecting the countless hours of training they had put in over the years. As the class began, the twins demonstrated an extraordinary level of coordination and awareness. They executed complex sequences with ease, seamlessly combining offense and defense. Each move flowed naturally into the next, a reflection of both skill and careful attention to timing. The other students watched in awe, trying to emulate the precision and calm they observed. The older black belts, once aggressive and dismissive, now looked on with admiration, realizing that the twins' strength was rooted not just in physical ability but in tireless practice, discipline, and mental focus. During sparring exercises, the twins paired off with different students, showing patience and understanding with each one. They adjusted their movements to the abilities of their partners, providing challenges that were fair but demanding. With every match, it reinforced the lesson that martial arts was not about domination or arrogance, but about skill, discipline, and growth. Even when faced with students who were stronger or more aggressive, the twins maintained their composure, moving strategically and responding thoughtfully to every challenge. One of the younger students struggled with a particular sequence, becoming frustrated and on the verge of giving up. The twins noticed and stepped in quietly, demonstrating the movements slowly and guiding the student with patience. They encouraged careful repetition, helping the student build confidence and control. By the end of the session, the student had improved noticeably, smiling with pride at the progress made. The twins nodded in quiet satisfaction, understanding that teaching and helping others was as important as perfecting their own skills. Later in the class, a challenge arose. Two of the older black belts, still testing boundaries but now more cautiously, approached the twins. Their movements were faster, their strikes more focused, but the twins responded with the same calm, precise technique that had become their signature. They anticipated attacks, blocked efficiently, and moved with balance and coordination. Each exchange was controlled, with no anger or aggression, only measured responses that neutralized the opposition. The dojo fell silent as everyone watched, recognizing the mastery the twins exhibited by the end of the session. It was clear that the twins had not only maintained their abilities, but had grown stronger, both in skill and in character. They had become role models for the dojo, embodying the principles of patience, discipline, and tireless effort. The older black belts approached them quietly, nodding in respect. There were no words of arrogance or threats, this time only acknowledgement of the twins' skill and unwavering dedication. After class, the twins remained behind to practice additional techniques. They moved through sequences with precision, adjusting for balance, speed, and accuracy. Their training was quiet and focused, but their dedication was evident to anyone who watched. The sensei observed from a distance, proud of the progress and influence the twins had demonstrated. They had transformed the dojo in subtle but meaningful ways, teaching lessons through example rather than confrontation. Outside of the dojo, the twins reflected on the journey they had taken. They remembered the early days of being underestimated, the moments of intimidation, and the challenges they had faced together. Every experience had strengthened them, not just in martial arts, but in resilience, understanding, and teamwork. They understood that true strength was not measured by physical ability alone, but by tireless effort, calmness under pressure, and the capacity to uplift others. Their influence extended beyond the dojo. Younger students approached with confidence, inspired by the twins' dedication. Even those outside the martial arts community noticed the change in their demeanor, the calm confidence, tireless work ethic, and the quiet strength that spoke without words. The twins had become living examples of how discipline and effort could overcome adversity and influence others positively. The twins continued to train together, refining their skills and deepening their bond. They pushed each other to grow, offering feedback and support, always striving for excellence without seeking attention or recognition. They had learned that mastery was a continuous journey, and every day presented an opportunity to improve, to grow stronger, and to act with discipline and integrity. One day, a former antagonist approached the twins quietly after class. The black belt had once tried to intimidate them, but now approached with respect, seeking guidance and advice. The twins responded with the same patience and humility they had shown throughout their journey. They offered tips, demonstrating techniques and explaining principles, reinforcing the lesson that strength was not about ego, but about skill, control, and respect as the sun set over the dojo. Casting long shadows across the wooden floors, the twins walked home together. They reflected on how far they had come, the obstacles they had overcome, and the lessons they had learned. They understood that challenges would continue to appear, but they were ready. They had proven that tireless effort, discipline, and calm determination could overcome intimidation and transform their environment. The twins' journey had taught them many lessons. But the most important was the value of perseverance and integrity. They had shown that true strength was not about being the loudest or most aggressive, but about patience, skill, and the ability to remain tireless in the pursuit of excellence. They had faced adversity together, supported each other, and influenced those around them by example. Their story was not just one of martial arts, but of growth, resilience, and the quiet power of discipline and unity. As they reached home, the twins knew that their journey was ongoing. There would always be new challenges, new techniques to learn, and new opportunities to grow. But they were ready. Together, they would continue to train, to teach, and to inspire, remaining tireless fighters not only in skill, but in spirit. Their story was one of dedication, courage, and the unwavering belief that perseverance, discipline, humility could overcome any obstacle and leave a lasting impact on everyone around them.